Picture this. It's the 1970s. You've got a disco ball spinning in your garage, and you're about to buy the hottest new motorcycle, only to realize it's a complete dud. That's the kind of heartbreak we're diving into today. Some of these bikes had engines so weak, you could outrun them on foot. Others were so unreliable, owning one was like dating a drama queen, expensive, stressful, and inevitably disappointing. Stay tuned as we count down the top 10 worst motorcycles of the 1970s. From bizarre design choices to engineering flops, these bikes are proof that even legends make mistakes. Imagine a Harley that couldn't outrun a Vespa. That's the AMF SX125, a 125cc single-cylinder bike with a staggering 7 horsepower. During the 1970s, Harley-Davidson was under the control of AMF, American Machine and Foundry, a period many fans refer to as the Dark Ages. The SX125 was meant to attract beginner riders and compete in the lightweight market. But instead, it alienated Harley's loyal fan base, who weren't thrilled about a Harley that sounded like a chainsaw choking on sawdust. At $595 back then, about $3,500 today, it was affordable, but that was about the only thing it had going for it. The bike's poor build quality meant frequent breakdowns, and its lack of power turned riding it into a tedious chore. Owners complained that the SX125 felt more like a sewing machine on wheels than a motorcycle. This model represented everything Harley-Davidson wasn't known for: tiny engines, weak performance, and a lack of charisma. It failed to capture the spirit of the brand, and Harley enthusiasts were quick to forget it. If you find one today, it's likely a collector's item, but only because so few survived the era. The Suzuki Re5 Rotary was supposed to revolutionize motorcycles with its cutting-edge technology. Instead, it became a cautionary tale. Powered by a 497cc Wankel rotary engine, the Re5 produced an impressive 62 horsepower, but that's where the good news ended. The rotary engine was unfamiliar to most riders and mechanics, leading to confusion and mistrust. It also guzzled gas like it was auditioning for a role in an oil company ad and required frequent, expensive maintenance. Suzuki priced it at $2,495, about $14,000 today, which made it one of the most expensive bikes of its time. While the engine itself was unique, it produced a high-pitched whine that riders either found fascinating or downright irritating. More importantly, the engine's complexity scared off potential buyers who didn't want to deal with the headaches of rotary maintenance. Sales were abysmal, and Suzuki soon discontinued the Re5. Today, it's a quirky collector's item, valued for its oddball status rather than its performance. The Re5 proved that innovation isn't always the key to success. Sometimes, sticking with what works is a better idea. Despite its failure, it remains a symbol of Suzuki's willingness to take risks, even if they didn't always pay off. The Norton Commando Highrider was proof that even a legendary name couldn't save a bad idea. Norton took its iconic Commando, a bike known for its performance and classic British styling, and turned it into a chopper-inspired monstrosity. With its high handlebars, banana-style seat, and garish design, the Highrider looked like it belonged in a Saturday morning cartoon rather than on the open road. Underneath its awkward exterior, the Highrider was powered by an 828cc twin-cylinder engine producing 58 horsepower. While the engine itself wasn't bad, the bike's handling was another story. The chopper-style modifications made it difficult to control, especially for riders accustomed to the smooth ride of the standard Commando. Priced at $2,300, about $13,000 today, it was a tough sell for buyers who expected more sophistication from Norton. The Highrider's failure was a wake-up call for Norton, showing them that blindly chasing trends wasn't the way to stay competitive. Today, the Highrider is a rare find, but it's more often remembered as a misguided attempt to cash in on the chopper craze. It serves as a reminder that good engineering can't make up for bad design choices, no matter how legendary the brand. On the surface, the Honda CB350G didn't look like a disaster. In fact, it shared much of its DNA with the rest of the CB350 lineup, which was one of Honda's most successful series of the era. Powered by a 325cc twin-cylinder engine that produced 36 horsepower, it was nimble, reliable, and affordable at just $895, around $5,200 today. But here's where things took a turn. Honda decided to equip the CB350G with a drum brake up front instead of the disc brakes that were quickly becoming standard. That decision made the CB350G feel outdated right out of the gate. While the engine was reliable, the braking system left riders anxious about quick stops, especially in wet conditions. This was a glaring issue considering Honda had already introduced disc brakes on earlier CB350 models. Why they backtracked with the G model remains a mystery, but the sales numbers told the story. Riders weren't interested in what felt like a step backward. The CB350G didn't leave much of a legacy and was quietly discontinued. While the rest of the CB350 lineup went on to become classics, the G model was largely forgotten. Today, it's a rare sight, but only the most dedicated Honda enthusiasts are likely to care. The Yamaha TX750 is a perfect example of a bike that looked great on paper but completely fell apart in the real world, sometimes literally. Powered by a 743cc twin-cylinder engine that delivered 63 horsepower, the TX750 was marketed as the ultimate touring bike. Priced at $1,600, about $9,300 today, it seemed like a great value for riders looking for a reliable mid-range motorcycle. Unfortunately, Yamaha's design team overlooked a critical flaw: the engine's tendency to overheat. The overheating issue caused the TX750's oil to foam, which led to catastrophic engine failures. Riders found themselves stranded on the side of the road, watching their dream bike transform into an expensive paperweight. Yamaha attempted to fix the issue with various updates, but the bike's reputation was already in tatters. Even worse, its heavy weight and mediocre handling didn't exactly inspire confidence on long rides. Sales plummeted, and Yamaha eventually pulled the plug on the TX750. Today, it's remembered as one of the brand's biggest missteps of the decade. While Yamaha learned valuable lessons from the TX750's failure, riders who bought it new were left with little more than a cautionary tale, and possibly a lingering distrust of overheating engines. The Kawasaki H2750 Mach 4 was a beast, both in terms of power and unpredictability. With a 748cc two-stroke engine that produced a staggering 74 horsepower, the H2750 was one of the fastest bikes of its time. Nicknamed the Widowmaker, it earned its reputation for being a wild and dangerous ride. At $1,400, around $8,000 today, it was relatively affordable for the performance it delivered, but many riders quickly realized they'd gotten more than they bargained for. The bike's explosive power came with a serious downside: terrible handling. The lightweight frame and aggressive engine made it difficult to control, especially at high speeds. Combine that with weak brakes and limited suspension, and you had a recipe for disaster. Riders joked that the Mach 4 was more of a straight-line rocket than a practical motorcycle, and cornering was something you attempted only if you were feeling particularly brave or foolish. Despite its flaws, the Mach 4 gained a cult following among speed enthusiasts, and its legacy lives on as one of the most infamous bikes of the 1970s. Kawasaki eventually refined their designs, but the H2750 remains a cautionary tale about the perils of chasing raw power without proper control. HarleyDavidson Sprint 350 was another misstep from the AMF era, a time when the company seemed determined to alienate its core audience. Powered by a 344cc single-cylinder engine producing 27 horsepower, the Sprint 350 was intended to be a lightweight, sporty alternative to Harley's heavier cruisers. But instead of attracting a new demographic, it ended up alienating everyone. The Sprint 350's vibrations were so intense, riders joked that it doubled as a full-body massage chair. Unfortunately, that was one of its few redeeming qualities. Priced at $895, around $5,500 today, it wasn't particularly expensive, but it also wasn't particularly good. Build quality suffered under AMF's cost-cutting measures, leading to frequent breakdowns and a general sense of unreliability. Harley's loyal fans, who were used to the brand's larger, more powerful bikes, dismissed the Sprint 350 as an identity crisis on wheels. Meanwhile, new riders who might have been interested were put off by its lackluster performance and high-maintenance needs. The Sprint 350 was quietly discontinued, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most forgettable bikes Harley ever produced. Today, it's a collector's item only for those who truly enjoy digging into the most obscure corners of motorcycle history. The Triumph X75 Hurricane was supposed to be a bold statement, but it ended up being more of a loud cry for help. Designed to appeal to the American market, the X75 featured a bright orange paint job, a unique 3-into-1 exhaust system, and styling that can only be described as polarizing. Beneath its flashy exterior, the Hurricane packed a 741cc triple-cylinder engine producing 58 horsepower. While that wasn't bad for the time, it wasn't enough to justify its hefty $1,800 price tag, about $10,000 today. The Hurricane's quirky design may have been ahead of its time, but it didn't resonate with riders in the 1970s. Many found the bike's ergonomics awkward, with its low seat and high handlebars making long rides uncomfortable. The bright orange color scheme didn't help either. It was more likely to turn heads in confusion than admiration. While the X75 Hurricane has gained a cult following among collectors, it was a commercial flop during its production run. Triumph discontinued it after a short stint, marking it as one of the brand's more unusual experiments. Today, the Hurricane is appreciated for its uniqueness, but it's still remembered as a bike that tried to do too much and fell short. The Ducati H60 GT was a departure from the company's usual sleek Italian designs, and not in a good way. Styled by automotive designer Giorgetto Giugiaro, the 860 GT featured sharp, angular lines that were meant to look modern, but instead came across as awkward and clunky. Powered by an 864cc V-twin engine producing 60 horsepower, the bike had decent performance, but its looks were a major turnoff for many buyers. Priced at $2,200, about $13,000 today, the 860 GT was aimed at riders who wanted both performance and style. Unfortunately, it delivered only half of that equation. Riders found the bike's ergonomics uncomfortable, with its angular seat and awkward handlebar placement making long rides a chore. The boxy design didn't age well, and sales were disappointing. Despite its commercial failure, the 860 GT remains a part of Ducati's history as a lesson in the importance of cohesive design. While Giugiaro is celebrated for his work on cars, his motorcycle designs didn't quite hit the mark. Today, the 860 GT is a curiosity among collectors, valued more for its rarity than its appeal. Ducati fans may not look back on it fondly, but it's a reminder that even the best brands occasionally miss the mark. Kawasaki's Z1R TC Turbo is the ultimate example of a bike that was too ambitious for its own good. Powered by a turbocharged 1015cc engine producing 130 horsepower, it was one of the most powerful motorcycles of its time. But with great power came great problems, namely turbo lag that made acceleration unpredictable and handling that could only be described as terrifying. Priced at $3,995, about $22,000 today, the Z1R TC Turbo was marketed as a high-performance machine, but it came with a major catch. Kawasaki refused to warranty the turbocharger. Riders quickly discovered why. The turbo system was prone to failure, and when it worked, it often delivered more power than the bike's frame and brakes could handle. While it gained a cult following among adrenaline junkies, the Z1R TC Turbo was a commercial flop. Its unreliability and sky-high maintenance costs overshadowed its impressive power. Today, it's remembered as one of the most infamous motorcycles of the 1970s, a bike that pushed the limits of technology but forgot about practicality. Kawasaki learned from its mistakes, but the Z1R TC Turbo remains a wild and cautionary tale in the world of high-performance bikes. And there you have it, the Hall of Fame for two-wheeled disasters. From underpowered engines to bikes that seemed actively hostile to their owners, the 1970s gave us some unforgettable flops. But hey, even the worst motorcycles teach us something, like the importance of good brakes, or, not strapping a turbo to an untested engine. Let us know in the comments which of these bikes you'd still take for a spin if you're feeling brave. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more hilarious dives into motorcycle history.